Hi everybody and welcome to Dryer Days Art Studio. This is the geode that I'm going to be doing in today's video. This board was cut out of MDF about 3/4 of an inch thick, and my husband cut it for me, so I didn't find it at a store or anything, and I sanded it down. I gessoed it 2 times, sanding in between. And the resin that I'm going to be using today is Stone Coat Countertop Art Resin. I love this stuff. I just bought it and I've been making all kinds of stuff with it. It's awesome. And if you want to know where to find all the stuff that I use in this video, it will be below in the video description. This is going to be a 2-part series, and in this part I am showing how I made barriers out of liquid nails. And in the other part video that I'm going to be doing, which I will put a link at the end of this video, or you can also find it in the description, I use a clay mixture instead of the liquid nails to try out these 2 different things to see how they work. I did like the liquid nails. It gave a good barrier, but it was really hard for me. I don't know if it just was my caulking gun, but it was just really hard to squeeze it out. It took about 24 hours to dry, which was fine, but it was a lot of work. The clay seemed to be a little bit easier to work with. But it's just personal preference. You could use a silicone caulk as well if you wanted. And then here I'm just showing how I painted in the areas of each of these moons that I did. I really wanted this moon in this video to have more of an earthy, golden brown earth tone feel. Started incorporating my hot glue gun. I laid down my glue, a strip of it, next to these barriers, and then I would put down my glitter or my gemstones. It's obviously time-lapse just so you can see how I did it. I didn't want to take a whole lot of time focusing on this part, but the glue really gave a nice barrier as well and kept all that glitter and the gemstones right in place where I wanted them. These resin geodes do take several steps to make. You can see right here I'm laying down my gemstones and my glitter, and I had made the barriers before that, and then I'm gonna do actually 2 to 3 layers of resin. So they are time consuming, they take time, you wanna do your prep work, because the more you do in prep, the better these will turn out. And here I'm coming in doing my first layer of resin. You can see above there the colors that I used. I did use acrylic ink by Liquitex and a Liquitex color. Now you only want to add in a little bit of your paint or your acrylic inks. You don't need a whole lot. I did use the white base tint, which you see here, from Stone Coat Resin, and again you can find that on their website, which I have linked down below in the description. And you can see there a little bit of the Deco Art Americana, that creamy paint. I added a little bit of that to the white because I didn't want a pure white. Again, I wanted this to look really earthy, and so I wanted to kind of dilute that pure white out a little bit. So I did add a touch of craft paint in with that white base paint, and it really worked very nicely. Here I'm just using a clear resin because I really like that bronze underneath there, and I wanted it to show through. As the resin moved around, we lost that a little bit, but you'll see that as this progresses. I love this heat gun. You can find it in the description below. You do want to come in and either heat up or torch that resin to pop any bubbles. It's also going to help move that resin around, give it more of an organic look, create cells and lacing. And I usually hit it with the Stone Coat resin 2 to 3 times. Just to make sure all those bubbles are really popped before I let it sit for the evening. I am coming in here to do my second layer of resin because I wasn't real happy with some of these. The third one in there, the one that's really white, it just was a little bit too plain for me. I wanted more dimension. So I mixed up about 2 ounces of resin, equal parts, 1 ounce to 1 ounce, and added just a little bit of my dark metallics acrylic ink by Liquitex in these little cups. And I'm just laying down a little bit to give me a little bit more dimension. And I just used a tiny bit of those inks because I didn't want them to be totally opaque. I wanted you to be able to see that layer underneath. And I should mention here too, if you notice, I have a masking tape that's all the way around the edge of this moon, and you'll see it in my other video too. Again, you can find in the description what I use as far as products, but the reason that that tape is there is to create another boundary or barrier so that that resin will stay in place. Now, when I'm finished for the evening with putting the second layer on, I will come back in about 2.5 to 3 hours. I will take that tape off and I will heat up the edges with my heat gun just a little to get that resin moving over the sides, and I will blend it into my sides and rub underneath to get any of the drips off. And that is just to really help keep the shape to build that resin up. And after 2.5 to 3 hours, it's firming up enough that you're not going to lose it all totally over the sides. I loved how this last ring looked with that dark in there, and when I do a close-up you can see there's kind of coppery gold ribbons through it. And so all I did here was add a clear layer because I loved how that looked underneath. I didn't want to change it at all. So if you just cover it with a clear layer of resin, it'll maintain your look. Here I wanted to show that I do use blue painter's tape on the back, and you can see some of those drips and how they collect. No matter how much you try to clean up that underneath, you will still get drips. So I put that blue painter's tape down first, and as you can see, it's all coming off nicely. I've got this clean edge. Now you do need to pull this tape off before it hits the 72-hour mark because your resin will be rock hard and you're not going to be able to get that tape off, and you're going to have to sand it down. And here I just use my Uni Posca pens to add a little bit more texture, dimension to this piece, and you'll see it really makes it pop. I'm super happy with how this came out. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it informative. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe. Come find me at my Facebook group, Acrylic Pouring and Fluid Painting, or over at Instagram at Dryer Days. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, keep on pouring.